Hello and welcome to this week's episode of For the Love of Chiropractic. I'm your host, Dr. Robert Freeman, and to our long-term listeners, I want to say welcome back and thanks for tuning in again this week. If you're a newer listener, I'm going to encourage you to listen, enjoy, tell others about the show, and most importantly, make sure you pause right now and hit subscribe. And the reason you want to hit that subscribe button is so that you never miss an episode, because each one builds to help you go where you want to grow. On today's episode, we get to hear from a doctor who's been in practice for 17 years. And in addition to being an incredibly proud dad, he owns an office called Innate Wellness. His goal has been to create a concierge chiropractic experience with chiropractic at the center, where he can act as primary care doctor for his patients to help them be the healthiest version of themselves in today's world. So I hope you enjoy this interview with Dr. Ryan Hewitt. Hello and welcome to Secrets of My Success, part of For the Love of Chiropractic podcast series. On each episode, I'll be interviewing one highly successful doctor or business person, asking them what are their 3 keys of success or secrets they've used to make themselves so highly successful. So let's get started with today's show. So I had the opportunity to catch up with Dr. Ryan Hewitt by phone. Ryan, are you there?
I'm here, Robert.
It is so good to talk to you. I'm glad we could both take the time and make the time to record this interview. So for the listening audience, tell us where you practice. Where do you live in practice?
Yeah, happy to share with you, Robert. I appreciate you having me on. So I have a practice just north of Boston in a city called North Andover, Massachusetts.
Awesome. And you've been there how long? Are you from there, or you went there after school? How'd you end up there?
I'm not from there. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, which is literally the very center of Canada. I went to school in Minneapolis, Minnesota, in Northwestern Health Science, and I ended up in Massachusetts as an associate. I associated for a doctor in Beverly, Massachusetts for 2 years. And then I started my own practice with my wife, Kendra, in 2010. So
awesome.
If we do the math, that's 15 years this year.
Yeah. All right. So you must have gone to school, I guess it was about 17 years ago then?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Graduated 17 years ago.
That's awesome, and congratulations. So what was so let's back up. So you're up there in the dead center of Canada. Well, how did you decide to become a chiropractor? What was your path into the profession?
When I look back at this now, I can see that God had His hand on His plan for me. And when you're in your teens and then your 20s, you think you know everything, but you don't know anything. And I ended up finding my first chiropractor from a spinal injury from hockey. Go figure. I'm from Winnipeg. I played hockey, of course.
Of course.
And I happened to be very interested in athletics and working out. And I was actually studying in the Faculty of Science, thinking I would eventually do perhaps my pre-med and do the MCAT. Who knows? I actually had shadowed it. Before this, I had shadowed athletic therapists and orthopedic surgeons. I had an uncle that played in the NHL, so I was very interested in sort of this avenue for my life. But I met my chiropractor completely by accident, actually at my university. He was there representing the Manitoba Chiropractic Association. And this guy happened to be, principal chiropractor who was, I don't know if you remember, Chiropractic Leadership Alliance with, was it Christopher Kent and Patch and Tempo?
Absolutely, CLA.
Yeah, so he got to meet me. He found out that I was pretty hobbled by this spine injury, and he told me to come in to get checked out. He thought he could help me, and I took this as a sign. I was like, yeah, why not? I'd never even heard of a chiropractor before. I didn't know what they were, and I went to his office and. I remember him helping me tremendously, of course. But what really shifted my life in that direction was he started strategically setting me up with some of his patients to ask them questions. Hey, Mary, tell Ryan about, your story about how you came here and what happened. And I started to hear these patients' stories about how they were getting results with headaches and getting off medication and getting healthier, and how much Dr. Tapper had changed their life. And I was just blown away. I was like, this is the kind of doctor I want to be. So, that immediately shifted my focus to getting into chiropractic school.
Oh, that is just gold. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I decided to go to the nearest school to Winnipeg because I could get there driving distance. I funded all of my own schooling, like my undergrad, my chiropractic school, and everything. I was a professional fishing guide in the summertime.
Wow.
And so for me, like, cost was a big decision maker for where I wanted to go.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Richard probably wouldn't have chose my school as his first, school of referral. But, as long as I got my ticket to ride,
right.
He thought I would be fine. And, he put it in my ear. He's like, listen, use your time wisely outside of school, really explore clubs and whatnot. And he actually introduced me to my first chiropractic seminar with Charlie Ward.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if you remember him.
Sure.
And he was the first chiropractor that just kind of blew my doors open. I remember being like in total awe of all of the crazy shit he was saying.
Oh, yeah. Right. Yeah. And as a chiropractor, and I know you know this, when we go to school, okay, they teach us how to become a doctor. Absolutely. Some of the schools, I believe, do teach the students how to be reasonably competent chiropractors. Okay.
Sure.
And then once you're granted the DC, once you've earned the DC behind your name, then you've earned your, as you said, the ticket to the show to start learning what really being a chiropractor means and the opportunities that really there are for you. And just not enough of our colleagues, step into the arena and become great the way you obviously have.
Yeah, I just, intuitively I knew that, well, first of all, I knew this was the direction for my life. And I made a decision that I wanted to be the best chiropractor I could possibly become. So one of the most valuable things I did while I was in school was, not only going to different clubs and going to all these seminars at a discounted price because I was a student, but I visited a whole ton of chiropractors. So I observed a lot of offices and I got to see the different techniques, the different philosophies, the different practice procedures and communication and whatnot. And I got to see, a lot of the things I wanted and things I didn't want. And this really shaped, I think, my decision of the associate position that I chose and ultimately the way I practice today.
Oh, and I absolutely love one of the things that you shared before we started recording the other day when we were chatting. You had said that you took your time while you were in school, not only to visit as many offices as possible, as many successful offices as possible, but you also used your time to start to learn how businesses ran.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And this is something you don't know what you don't know at first. And what I quickly realized was that the chiropractors that I found were, I thought were the most successful, not just like, they drive a really nice car or whatnot, but they had really nice offices. They had, patients that were excited to be there. I got to listen to what they were discussing and communicating about and some of the testimonials and stories and just the sheer volume of people I would see in some of the offices. I could see a lot of these docs were business owners.
Oh, yeah.
So I knew that was eventually my path, that I wanted to be a business owner. But here's the thing, man. I came from a blue-collar neighborhood. I came from blue-collar parents. I had friends that all had blue-collar parents, and I was never exposed to any sort of entrepreneurial spirit or business principles or anything. So I had a long journey ahead, little did I know, of what it actually takes to start and not just start a business. Anyone can start a business, but get it off the ground and stay committed to it and really nurture it and help it, really thrive.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's funny when I was a student. Now it was a long time ago. I graduated back in 1990, but when I was a student, one of the practice management companies was allowed to come on campus and did a very brief half-day seminar. And one of the things that the doctor said has always stuck with me. And he said, going into business is expensive and everybody should have a chance to try it. But you have not earned the right to be in business a second year if you didn't earn any money and end up on the positive side at the end of the first year. And right, that just stuck with me. Like you don't get a second year if the first one didn't work.
Yeah, you're done. You're cooked.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all right, that didn't work. Now what are you going to do? You found out you got a lot to learn, a lot more to learn. So, okay, so that's absolutely fantastic. So let's fast forward. Tell me about your practice now. What makes it so special and unique? Because it absolutely is. You were telling me about it before we started recording.
Well, what makes it so special, I believe, is that my vision for what I wanted to create was always to create a space where I was delivering a service that competed on quality. I came from a high volume office. I've adjusted high volume. I've watched a lot of chiropractors adjust high volume. I went to a lot of seminars where chiropractors bragged about all their high volume. And what I quickly realized when I learned the truth about a lot of these high volume practitioners is they were full of shit. Really what they were doing was a lot of wheeling and dealing and, free family members and all this stuff. Like they were trying to boast about all these people that they were helping save their lives and adjusting them. But in reality, to me, what they were doing is they were devaluing their service tremendously. And, I have a really high value for what we do. And I think that chiropractic should and can be available to everybody. But it doesn't mean that you have to adjust everybody. So I over time decided the type of clients that I wanted to serve and the type of practice that I wanted to build around that, client I wanted to serve. And what that practice looks like today is what I call like a concierge chiropractic service. So it's a private pay office. So we call that all cash. So it's non-insurance dependent. So people are paying their hard-earned money to pay me to deliver them a service. And with that service, of course, my core offering is corrective chiropractic work. So we're doing a lot of movement correction. We're working on, not just helping people with initial symptoms and getting them out of crises, but helping them stay out of crisis and helping cast a vision for them that's larger than the one they came in with, as far as their health, their function, their performance, their recovery. So we have different tools in my office that help deliver that service and identify these things proactively. I call this third tier healthcare. This is actually health promotion. So it's not treatment of disease. It's not early detection of disease. It's promotion of health. So, I'm coaching, I'm leading, I'm teaching, and I'm also, delivering chiropractic, corrective exercise, tissue regenerative technologies, functional blood chemistry, hormone optimization. So things that are on what I believe the cutting edge of wellness, where I believe chiropractic is uniquely positioned, to lead the field in that avenue.
I love that. Your office sounds like an amazing place. I need to get up to Boston and come and see you one day. This sounds super cool.
Oh, anytime, man. I love visitors.
So, yeah, this is absolutely fantastic. So, having become hugely successful and you run this amazing practice. Well, actually, before we go to my next question, let me ask you a different one. Tell me about your staff. How many people are on staff? How many doctors? How many chiropractic assistants? What does your office look like from a staffing perspective?
Yeah, I don't have a humongous staff. There's me and one other associate doctor right now. My vision is to have 3 doctors in this office. It's ultimately a 3-doctor office. Mm-hmm. Right now, there's two of us. I have 2 really strong chiropractic assistants, and one of them does operate as my back office CA or my office manager. And I also have a tech who he runs my soft wave decompression and corrective exercises.
Got it.
And then, of course, there is, how could I leave out, my CFO, who is my wife. So
there you go. Well, you could leave her out, but you'd be sleeping on the sofa for the foreseeable future.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be here without her. Let's put it that way.
I totally believe that. All of us have a partner, that have helped us to get where we are. And the fact that it's your wife, I think, is just absolutely fantastic. Good for you guys. So,
well,
okay.
It's the hardest thing you'll ever do is stay married, and the second hardest thing you'll ever do if you're crazy is stay married and start and run a business with them, and have children. I call this. So, you want to know what the trifecta of insanity is, Robert?
Go ahead.
Be a married business owner with children, and then you square that by going into business with them as well.
And you, my friend, obviously have made it work, to the nth degree. And man, good for you. I love that. So let's start to zero in on really the purpose of the podcast. So tell me about your 3 keys of success. What, we'll go through them one at a time. So what would you say? You have an opportunity here. We're speaking to the world because we have listeners all around the world in 28 countries at this point. So what are your 3 keys that have made your practice so successful that you want to tell people, do this and you can be successful too?
Okay, well, just to continue on what we already just touched on, my first key to success is be very discerning about who you marry. It's the most important decision you'll ever make. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that you have to go into business with your spouse, but who you marry, my advice, and this is speaking to men, I suppose we're speaking to men and women, but this could apply to women as well, is find a spouse who believes in your dreams more than you do. And, it makes you want to become a better person, because of who this person, because of how they believe in you. Right. It motivates you to want to become, for me, a better man. And the thing is, my wife loved me for who I was when, before I started that business.
Sure.
Guy who was 6 figures in debt, who had a Toyota Camry and a cast iron pan, and that's it. Literally, I'm not even kidding. And she believed in that guy, but she also loved me through the process of me evolving to become the man I am today, which has not been easy. Trust me, like I am not and have not been easy to be married to. So, yeah, who you marry, like principles of success, that's number one.
I love that. Okay. And there's nothing that I could say that would add to that because you just encapsulated it so incredibly beautifully. What's number 2?
So number 2, and I didn't figure this out until late in my career, not too long ago, actually, is that I was white knuckling it for a long time. Man,
what does that mean?
I was doing it for me. I was doing it for myself. I was doing it out of ego. I was doing it out of like what I thought success looked like to me. Whether it was like, with our KPIs or, with the stuff we could buy or the vacations we could take. But really like having God or a higher power to, just to have in your life to help you have a bigger purpose for your life. Right. So what I learned to do and what I learned from other successful people is that, they have like this GPS or like this God positioning satellite that they turn on and that they keep on, through whatever ways that you're able to do that. If you do this in a morning routine or you do this with prayer or you do this with, a men's group, you do this with, you go to church, whatever it is, but just have this relationship with a higher power that, helps power you up and give you a purpose for your life that's bigger than just going to work, just like trying to serve your family or whatnot. I think that's number 2 for me.
Okay. I love that too. What's number 3?
So number 3, I think for me, is perspective. And what I've found is that perspective has really shaped my operating system. And what I mean by that is that, like, the hardest thing you ever do is the hardest thing you've ever done. In other words, like, if you don't do hard shit regularly and you don't get uncomfortable and you're not expanding, then you're just going to be like most other chiropractors and just live the same 12 months over and over and over until you retire, sell your practice. And that type of life for me, just, it doesn't have a lot of fruit. With shaping your perspective by continuing to get uncomfortable, and whether that's learning new skills, learning new techniques, learning new ways of operating in your business, getting out in the community and doing different things marketing wise. And that goes for all the categories of your life, like getting uncomfortable in your body and working on your health and fitness, getting uncomfortable in your marriage, working on your marriage, and doing things together that are growing your relationship and your communication, and, not just with your spouse, but with your children, getting uncomfortable in your spirituality. All these things, they help deliver this wealth in your life. And I saw this meme the other day on Instagram. I think it showed sort of a meter, and one meter it showed like, rich person, and it had like a huge line with money, but then like family and God and their health were small. Mm-hmm. Like they were smaller bars. But then a wealthy person, it was like they had a little less money, but they had a more balanced life, in their faith, their fitness, their family, their finance. So, so for me, like, perspective has really helped shape what success really is to me, which, balance isn't really something that I believe is always possible. You're always going to be unbalanced, but, this perspective just helps, shape that operating system that allows you to always like revisit, recalculate, recalibrate, and continue to put energy into, the things that are going to keep growing your life.
That is so beautifully said. So we've only got about 5 minutes left. I've got a couple more things that I just have to ask you. So with the things that we've talked about and creating the practice that you've created, the life that you're living, Ryan, how do you define business success?
How do I define business success? Let's see. I think that, a successful business to me, and, I don't know if everyone would agree with this, but first and foremost, it has to serve you and your family. I think people are bullshitting themselves when they say like, oh, I'm doing this for a greater purpose and I don't have to make money, and I'm, doing this for the greater good, and it's out of service and the goodness of my heart. But listen, like, if money is a problem for you, then it's always going to be a stressor in your life. You're going to go to bed stressed out. It's going to affect the way you show up in your business. It's going to manifest in your marriage. It's going to manifest in your confidence. So, and I'm not saying to be selfish, but, it's like when the plane's going down, the oxygen mask pops down, like you put it on yourself first. So, for me, like, being successful in business is that, the king eats first. Like, the king eats first. Like, I want it, like, for me, I love supporting small businesses.
Sure.
But I want to go to small businesses where, like, the owners are crushing it. Like, they're doing great. I want to see that. I want to see them thrive. I don't want to see them struggling and starving and desperate. So for me, like, a successful business, the owner is making great profit, number one. And I think there's a lot of people that are uncomfortable with that. But I think, like, ultimately the purpose of business is to make money, right?
Yeah, of course.
But the caveat to that is that I think a successful business also, needs to be serving, the greater good of humanity. Like if your business isn't contributing and making people's lives better, then I think it's not fulfilling. So like the beautiful thing about this chiropractic profession is that you can be as successful as you want to be. Like in the United States, like you can be as successful as you want to be. And you also have this tremendous service that's like a super asset to the human race. So, you can go to bed at night knowing like, man, I have such a valuable service. I'm making money and this practice is successful. I can pay my employees really well because we do well. People are happy, staying, paying, referring. And, they're giving glowing testimonials because of like how much service and benefit this is to the human race, like, or the community or, the state, the country, all that.
I think you just nailed it right on the head when you said, what's business success? You're making a great profit. The owner is making a great profit and serving the greater good all at the same time. So if that's business success, and you've done a beautiful job of laying out really just who you are and who your practice is, how do you define personal success? What does that mean to you?
I touched on this a little bit before, but personal success to me is for me, I'm just going to speak from a male perspective. Sure. As a man, as a married business owner with children. For me is a 4-dimensional man. I've always desired to be somebody who is rounded, and I've sought mentors that I saw this in them, is that they were amazing husbands and fathers, that they were great leaders, and they were amazing communicators, and they were, great business owners, entrepreneurs, but they were also, spiritual. They were God-centered. So they were serving a higher purpose, for their life. And they were like jacked, like they took care of their health, and they weren't pushovers. Like these guys were like fit, healthy. So, they walk the talk. So for me, like personal success is walking the talk as a 4-dimensional man.
Love it. Oh, that is, again, that's gold. I absolutely love that. So having talked about the things that we've talked about and your keys of success, your practice, business, personal success, if a young doc is listening to this, or someone who's in practice but they haven't found success yet, my question is, in your opinion, is it still possible in today's world, starting today, to become a huge success?
Oh, of course. When I was getting out of school, I think, like I was listening to guys from the Master Circle, Bob Hoffman and Dennis Perman and Larry Markson, and their thing was like, there's never been a better time to be a chiropractor. And I don't think that saying is more true than it is today. I
agree. It just keeps getting better. More and more people.
Oh my God.
Yeah, more people know it, have heard about it, have tried it, are willing to try it. Oh, absolutely. And the results speak for themselves. So yeah, I agree with you completely. But so here's my final question. If that is true, if somebody has so they've heard these words, they've heard this interview and go, you know what? I am drawing a line in the sand. I am done with that. What would you say to them? Here's your very first step. Here's what you need to start doing right now.
To have a successful practice? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. I'm done. I'm done not being successful, or I'm ready to start being successful. What do I need to start doing, Dr. Hewitt?
Okay. So the first thing that comes to mind is that, number one, if you study successful people, there's one common denominator, and it's consistency. That's the only thing amongst all of these people that have successful businesses, and it doesn't matter the industry. Number two, and this goes back to, again, like what I learned through the Master Circle and when I was doing a lot of personal development, and you probably heard this before, is the saying went, be, do, have, right?
Mm-hmm.
You heard that before?
Mm-hmm.
Become the person that you want to be, that does the things that person does to have the life you want to have, right? It's complete bullshit. And I found this out because the worst mistake that people make is they wait and they do nothing. Or they start doing things and they give up. And the thing that separates successful people with unsuccessful people is they don't care what other people say, think, or do. They just keep doing. The first step is to do. If you're feeling down on yourself, if you're like what you would consider not as successful as you want to be, the new patients aren't showing up, or they're not signing up, or you don't have as many people, or your collections are down, like, just keep doing the things that you know will continue to get you the result, and don't stop every single day. Like, you can't take days off. You can't take time off. You can't, stop doing the things that were making you successful and rest on your laurels. Like I said before, like, the thing that makes successful people really successful is consistency. They just keep beating the drum day after day. Doesn't matter what people say. They just keep going.
I love that. Wow. Dr. Ryan Hewitt, I can't thank you enough for taking the time, making the time, sharing your knowledge. This has been absolutely fantastic. And again, I just can't thank you enough for being a guest on the show.
It's been my pleasure, Robert. Thanks for having me on.
All right. And that's our show for today. If you have a question about today's show or your own practice, feel free to reach out at fortheloveofchiropractic.com. Before making changes to your practice, be sure to seek legal advice regarding those changes and regulations in your state. For the Love of Chiropractic is an RGF production, all rights reserved. And thanks for listening. Original music provided by Hunter Rich Music.